Welcome to Ignite the Spark Within, a podcast designed to do just that, ignite your spark within you. I'm your host, Sarah Malone, owner of Spark Fitness and Lifestyle Coaching and voted Yahoo Finance's top 10 female coaches to follow in 2021. I believe everyone has a fire inside them, a powerful purpose, a story waiting to be told, and everyone can uncover and unleash this power. Every day you have the choice to either let your experiences shape you or take control and use your experiences to shape the world around you. You were made to experience happiness, freedom, joy, purpose, love, passion, and abundance. Disrupt the status quo, think for yourself, and join forces with those around you doing the same. Join me for thought-provoking conversations along with the strategies needed in order to help you ignite your spark within. All right, well, welcome back to the show, everyone. So you've heard the term trauma bond. Today, I want to title this episode Trauma Identity. And what I mean by this, I'll explain in depth as we go on the episode. But ideally, this episode is for anyone and everyone, because I'm sure you either know someone who's like this. Maybe you have been this person in the past. Maybe you are that person right now. Whatever the case, by the end of this episode, you'll have a much clearer picture of what a trauma identity means, if there are any parts of you that are holding on to this as well, or how to help somebody who you see identifies or fits the bill per se. So I want to just dive right in because there's a lot to this one, and I just want to get right into the meat and potatoes. I don't want to sugarcoat anything here. So when I say I trauma identity, what I really mean is forming our identity that it has a foundation of trauma. And so what does that look like? That looks like someone whose identity is literally formed around what's happened to them. So, it's the person who's been abused in relationships and they identify with that. Everything about them says, I've been an abused person in relationships. And or the person with, codependent tendencies in relationships because they've been hurt or they've had abandonment issues, and so they have this codependent tendency to cling on to someone in order to make themselves feel complete in some way. And this is just a few examples of how we go into this cycle of forming our identity based on our trauma. Now, there are many reasons why people don't address their problems, don't address their pain, and ultimately grow or change. But one of the most detrimental and stagnant ones is this area of identifying and rooting their identity in their trauma. They become their trauma so that in order to move forward, they would feel like they're abandoning themselves. And here's what I mean. If you base your identity based on what has happened to you, the problems that you continue to circulate in, and you begin forming relationships with people that know you for your problems or because of your problems, you are rooting yourself deep into this space where in order to heal, you must abandon that identity. And if that is the one that you think is truly you, it means you must abandon yourself. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody's going to do that because we're not designed to abandon ourselves. We need companionship in ourselves, but sometimes we can misplace this in our trauma, thinking that we're being our best companion by holding on to that pain and sitting in that space for far too long. Now, our biggest need as human beings is to be congruent with who we say and think that we are. And so if we say and we think we are, the child of an alcoholic, or a war child, or I'm a strict Catholic, and therefore I must follow this identity of a strict Catholic. attaching ourselves to these labels becomes dangerous, because now in order to be congruent, we must follow the stereotypical rules of someone who looks like that. Or if we've been cycling in our pain so long, where it's the thing that connects us to others is talking about our problems, talking about our pain, talking about our trauma, and this is the way that we receive love, well, then we're going to continue to cycle in that, because we must hold on to this love. We must hold on to this form of identity that we've hold. And so this is one of the main reasons that I see people do not grow or do not change or come away from this traumatic history of events in their life, and they string it on their whole life. Some people never heal from this, and it's because of this trauma identity that they've formed. So I want to talk about a couple things in this episode, what it means, what it looks like, and how can we reform our identity in a safe way that doesn't make us feel like we're abandoning ourselves, but that does open the area and open the space for healing and transformation, which really looks like coming back to your soul. At the end of the day, there is a part of your soul that is, believe it or not, completely undamageable. You cannot damage it. No trauma can damage it. That's the beautiful thing about making sure that our foundation is that, because that is what the Creator created us to be, and He does not make mistakes. You are perfect at that level. We become imperfect when we are born into an imperfect world. And we run into trouble when we attach ourselves and define ourselves so much by what happened to us and how our responses have been formed, creating our new path forward, thus forming our identity. So what it means, we already kind of talked about this, is what it truly means is that we begin building our identity on our problems and our pain. It connects us to others, in a way, but it also keeps us safe enough, whereas not to get completely vulnerable. Now, in order to stay congruent with who we say and think we are, if our identity is based on this concept of our traumas or our pains or what's happened to us and, all of these external factors, well, then in order to do that, we would need to consistently and constantly recreate that pain or trauma in order to verify the fact that we are who we say we are. Regardless of the outcome, regardless of if this is a good or bad thing, if it's healthy or unhealthy, we, as a human being, on a subconscious level, will continue to recreate the experience that connects us with our true identity, or what we see as our true identity, which is this trauma. Now, this prevents growth in many forms, but it also prevents relationships from forming. It prevents you from moving forward in life, and it can be extremely detrimental. You've all probably seen, the person who just continues to talk about the same story in their life over and over and over and over again. And it becomes so ingrained in their being that even their tone of voice when they're saying that story, you can hear the same tone of voice in everything that they say. And this is how you know that someone has become so attached to their quote-unquote trauma. I mean, the word trauma itself is just so overused. Or is it? Because everyone does have trauma, so it just has a stigma about it, I think. It doesn't have to be something necessarily so catastrophic that is obscene or extremely painful. It can be something as simple as your parents saying to you, or your dad saying when you were younger, "You'll never amount to anything." Just that one comment. I had a client come in the other day and say that he will never forget this come out of his dad's mouth. "Why are you so stupid?" Just that one phrase. And you know what? He began building his identity on that one phrase, which at the core of it was a traumatic moment for him as a young boy to hear that. And now everything in this person's being now is going to be created on this truth that they feel is true, that I'm stupid. Because the very question, why are you so stupid, is saying to this person, you're stupid. Okay, so this is what we mean. I don't think that we need to go any further into that, because I think it's pretty self-explanatory that we begin building our very identity and who we are on these trauma or traumas that then we become attached to, and this prevents us from growth. Now, how to transform this, we call this alchemy. Okay, transformation is really just alchemy. You cannot create or destroy anything new. You can only transform it, right? It's the first law of thermodynamics. Everybody knows this. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to the other. So it's not that we can obliterate this. It's not that we could just get rid of it. But what we can do is we can transform it. And I'm going to give you a few steps here. This is 6 steps that I've written down. And, again, I'm an expert in many different things. But this is just my own steps. And if you feel like you need to add or take away or do what you need to do, by all means, add or take away, skip some steps if you feel the need. But here's what I have found to be the path to transformation, to alchemize this identity crisis, if you will, because that's at the end of the day what it is. So step number 1, and you can write this down or pause this episode if you need to write this down. Step number 1 is awareness. People think that this initial step of awareness is going to be a huge awakening and it's going to be so exciting. It is the opposite. When you open your eyes to how you are actually responsible for your continued pain, it is a hard truth to swallow. It's a painful, eye-opening experience to say, holy crap, the finger is no longer pointed outwards. It's pointed here at myself, right at my heart center. Because whereas one pain may have happened to you, once we can find the root cause, years and years ago, that was one time. The rest of that building, the rest of your life's experiences and actions and choices were all yours. And the awareness of this fact that, oh my gosh, I'm holding on to this trauma and I have completely misplaced my identity in this thing, in this belief of this pain being so real and how this pain defines me. I don't even know who I am right now. That's that experience of awareness. It's a feeling of, I don't even know who I am because I was so committed to this one identity that I don't even know where to go from here. Which leads me to step 2, which is compassion. Compassion and stopping. At this point, no action should be taken, no movement, no, drastic reactions. And this is, I think, the point where people can get mixed up, because the part of awareness brings with it a lot of emotions. And if we're not attuned to or seasoned in managing and navigating the highs and the lows of our emotions. Our emotions are drivers. They are driving us constantly. Okay, so if we're not practicing emotional maturity, meaning, I can feel angry, but I cannot lash out. I can feel pain, but I cannot self-sabotage or self-harm. I can feel sadness, but I do not have to break down. I can feel love, but I don't have to cling. These are all emotionally mature tendencies in someone who's can manage their emotions. Now, granted, there are times and places when we are not our best managers and we need other people to help us through these times. And this takes humility to admit, to say, I can't get it together right now. I need you to help me see past this lens that my emotions are clouding in front of me. Get the windshield wipers and help me to clear the smog because my emotions are fogging up this window. It's okay. It's okay to do that. And that's step 3. But first we're on step 2 still, which is the compassion piece. So this is the moment of caution that I would caution anybody when they're trying to transform this traumatic identity experience into and back to their self-identity, is no movement. Stop. Don't react, respond. But you cannot respond properly until you've done the following steps that are coming after this, right? So have compassion for yourself. This is something that seems to be so hard for people, myself included. Once you become aware and you say to yourself, who am I? If all of that has been formed based on this trauma, then who am I really? Identity crisis, whoa, I must not have it all together. I must not be as far along as I thought I was. All these thoughts can come cycling in, and my step 2 is just stop sign, pump the brakes, stop sign, have compassion for yourself. It is okay. It is okay. And don't do a thing. Don't make any big decisions. Don't make any drastic moves. Don't take any huge actions, because out of this space, nothing good can come from it. Okay? Step 3, get it out. Either talk it out, write it out, because what stays inside lurks and grows, and it transforms into this dragon that becomes very hard. It becomes a fire-breathing dragon that becomes harder and harder to slay the bigger it grows. Okay? And so we don't want this to stay inside anymore. We want to get it out, whether you have to write it out or find a confidant or a therapist that you trust where you can talk it out to help just lay it out on the table so you could sort through all these boxes, right? You've got 100 different 1,000 million things running through your mind and emotions at this time. And when you can get it out, it's A, an emptying, but B, it helps you to see, okay, this is not as bad as I thought. We could do this. I could do this. It makes it tangible. It makes it manageable. It makes it actionable. Okay, so step 4 and 3 are kind of tied together because in the process of doing this, what you discover, whether by talking or writing or a mixture of both, ideally a mixture of both, is that you can identify the root cause. Okay, so in your head, everything's spiraling. It's one big tornado. Everything's blended together. As you begin talking and writing and talking and writing and identifying and starting to sort what is what, okay, this goes over here, this goes over here, these two are tied together, we can start to identify the root cause. What was the core moment? What was the moment or the root experience for you that was like, boom, there we go. Here is the formation of this new identity. Now, there may be multiple layers to this because there may be multiple trauma identities, right? And that's where it can get a little complex. This is why I love hypnotherapy so much. Hypnotherapy has a way of bypassing all of the conscious jibber jabber that your egos will begin to chime in to say, well, see, this is why we hold on to this, because there's a good reason. Of course, there's a good reason why you're holding on to your trauma. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. According to your ego, of course, there's a good reason to have that in place. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. If it weren't meeting a need, you wouldn't be doing it. So it bypasses that conscious factor gets right down to the subconscious. And where your subconscious is really good at is memorizing and storing every single thing that has ever happened to you. It is like a giant super computer database. And it has stored everything that's been said, everything that's been done, everything you've seen, touched, heard, felt, everything. It's all in there. We just got to do a little digging to find out where was it that this specific issue took roots? Where did the roots begin to form and then we just kept watering them? Because there's always one moment. There's always that one specific moment. Now, word of caution, try to only tackle one thing at a time. We've all had multiple traumas happen to us, and it can be easy to get overwhelmed. And when there is overwhelm, there is no action. So when we're talking about, transforming or shifting the identity and taking roots out of a trauma and trying to replant down into something of firm foundation, which is, again, your soul, we need to do this one at a time. One at a time, please, because then we become overwhelmed and the feeling of overwhelm halts us completely. So a few examples of some root cause issues. Let's take a chronically busy person, someone who just constantly is overworking, addicted to work. Really where this comes from is a feeling or a need to be worthy or approved of by others. And then we can cycle this back to say, okay, well, where did the feeling or the need to be worthy or approved by others come from? And the root cause would be, my dad told me that I would amount to nothing when I was younger. There it is. There's the root cause moment. And that is why you've done everything in your life that has been formed around that identity to say, see, I'm worthy, see, I'm worthy, see, I'm worthy. Whether it's overworking, whether it's over committing in relationships, whether it's, just being flamboyant in some way to get somebody's approval. This can come out in many different ways. Whatever the case may be, this feeling or need to be worthy or approved came from when Dad said I would amount to nothing. And you took that in at a core level and formed a belief about yourself that you're not worthy and that you would amount to nothing. And so you formed your entire life based on that trauma in order to feel that you're gaining worth or approval. But yet, if somebody does communicate to you, you're worthy, I approve of you, it's almost like you can't even accept it because that doesn't align with who you already think you are, which is someone who needs to gain worth or approval. When the truth is that you don't have to do anything to be worthy or approved of. You are already plenty worthy. But if your identity is, I am someone who needs to gain my worth and approval, well, then I have to do all the time. And you're stuck in the do cycle. You're stuck in the do cycle because you are someone who has to do in order to get that worth met instead of just being. Another example would be self-sabotaging. Self-sabotaging because maybe you learned at a young age from experience that maybe everything was great. And then, war broke out in your country. And then that's when really things changed in your life and people took action and they stepped up to the plate, right? So in this weird way, now follow this one, this is complex. In this weird way, you learned that massive pain precedes action. Check this out. Check this out. I'm about to go here. So massive pain precedes massive action. So now you believe that in order to take massive action, you must experience massive pain. Well, everyone wants to take massive action and everyone wants change. So in order to get to there, you must create massive pain. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the show. Hey, I'm going to make this really quick. On October 20th through the 23rd, if you are a woman or even if you are a man who knows a woman, any woman, that would benefit from this experience, I'm hosting a retreat with my dear friend Kim Egger in Arizona in the beautiful and spiritual Red Rocks of Sedona. We are very excited to bring this retreat. I've been hard at work at creating the content for this retreat for the past 2 years, ever since the pandemic hit. And what I realize is that these women, all people really, but right now we're focused on the healing of the divine feminine. And this is really just going to provide a space for growth, for healing, for rest and reprieve, as that is desperately what we need right now. And the contents and the guidance of somebody facilitating an actual growth experience instead of leaving you out in the cold. You know, if traditional therapy doesn't appeal to you, which it doesn't appeal to most, then this is a great way to experience the healing and transformational experience that something like that can offer you, but in a place where it's completely away from your normal routine, family, friends, and environment. It is a chance to connect with other women that are like-minded and on the same pursuit as you. And we're just going to spend 3 nights together in the beautiful Red Rocks of Arizona, healing, growing, doing the work, meditating, doing breath work, and exploring nature. So if this calls to you, if this appeals to you, we have limited spots available for this retreat, and we're just so excited to bring it to you. So you can email me at sarah@sparkflc.com or at any of the links in my social media bios. You'll find a link there to book a connection call with me, just to make sure that this retreat truly is for you. I also wanted to make an announcement of our sponsors of the show and just thank them. First sponsor is Spark Fitness and Lifestyle Coaching, my baby. This is a holistic health and wellness company that has expanded over the years to include things like Reiki and energy healing, guided and channeled meditations. We do activations of spiritual gifts. We also offer live in-person events for women only and for men and women, like the yoga and sound bowl healing sessions and the full moon women's gathering. There is so much to offer in this one space: fitness, nutrition, holistic healing, you name it, and it's going to be covered under mind, body, and spirit with Spark. And I'm very honored to partner with other partners and investors now to be able to sponsor this show. Our next sponsor, JuicePlus. I've said it, and I've said it ad nauseum now, that I am not a huge supplement fan, but JuicePlus captured my attention with its ability to bring an immunity aspect to me and help me to function at a higher level, which I was shocked to find out that we are recommended to consume 9 to 16 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And I don't know about you, but that's a lot of food to consume. And with our busy lifestyles, which I'm not condoning, by the way, it can be hard to consume that much food. So what's cool about JuicePlus is that all of this is holistic. It is legitimately powdered fruits and vegetables in a capsule, so you don't have to drink a nasty fruits and greens powder. They also come in gummies if you're not a pill swallower. I don't mind it, so I do the reds, the greens, and the purples, and their fish oil, their omega blend. And I have to say, Aside from just taking care of my health, which sometimes can be unseen and unfelt, I legitimately feel a difference in my ability to recover, in my health and vitality and energy. And it's almost like a space is created in your system and you just feel like things are more oxygenated, which, come to learn, that's its sole purpose, to oxygenate your system. So as an athlete and as a workhorse, even if you don't work out strenuously, even if you just live a lifestyle in which you're working a lot, you're creating what's called oxidative stress in your system. And oxidative stress can be very detrimental. It's what reduces your immunity. It's what causes inflammation. It's what harms recovery and muscle building, among other things. So JuicePlus has been a huge crutch and an important aspect in my own journey, not just athletic endeavors, but health as well. So if you need any more information on those, please hit the links in the show notes. They'll take you directly to Spark, the retreat page, and then JuicePlus. And hey, if this podcast is adding value to your life in any way, I just want to ask, there is a donate button. You can donate whatever, however little or as much as you want. It does not have to be recurring, but just as a thank you for, continuing to provide valuable content on this page. It really helps to keep this podcast going and just supports good quality information. You can find that link in the show notes as well. It's what began this show in the first place, and everything is welcome. At the end of the day, my mission is just to continue bringing you high quality, good conversations, a place to come to learn and hear vulnerability, and then so that you become a stronger and more capable human being as well. So anything is much appreciated to help continue this show. And before you get bored and start skipping, let's get back to the show. Introduce self-sabotage, where things are going great, but there's something that's stagnant and we don't have a catalyst to change. So we create a massive painful moment. We create the catalyst to get us to move into massive action. Ooh, dangerous territory, because now all change comes at the expense of both you and probably someone else too. Okay, these are big, and I'm sure you can identify with one or both, or maybe someone. So this is a very important step, this step number 4, getting to the root cause, because without understanding the root cause, we really don't have a way to alchemize this. So when I said earlier that, you can reform these steps, at least number 4, you cannot skip. You cannot skip it. We must identify where this root cause is coming from. And this is hard to do because it means that we have to go back to that moment in time when it happened and almost in a way relive that experience. But here's the key. We're not reliving it from the same lens. We're reliving it from now a wiser, older, much more knowledgeable and capable you. Because chances are that it's deeply rooted, far back enough where you were much younger, much more inexperienced, and didn't have the capacity to handle it then. That's why it's a trauma, because you didn't have the capacity to handle it then. Now you're different. So revisiting that moment shouldn't be so scary, or at least I'm implanting that in you now. It's not going to be that scary because you have different experiences to help you revisit that in a way that doesn't feel like a trauma anymore. And then you can reshift it. Okay. Step 5. Step 5 is very important, but I would say not all people do this. And step 5 precedes step 6 for a reason. And I'll explain that in a moment. Step 5 is get real about it. So once you've identified the root cause, that's great. And I'm sorry. And we all experience this. So know that you're not alone in that. But step 5 is get real about it. Get really real. Take a moment and just acknowledge and identify all the people, all the places, all the things, all that you have either harmed or missed out on or lost as a result of you keeping this identity that's based in this trauma, which you just identified where it's coming from. The reason this is important, guys, is because in order to get us to create a change, we must experience enough pain in the current way of living in order to get us to move into an uncertain future of creating that new identity, right? So we must experience enough pain in the current state, more pain than the pain of the unknown. More pain in our current circumstances than the fear of the unknown is presenting itself. And this step 5 is the way to do that. It's to say, I'm getting real. I'm getting really real, and feel the loss of those things, not in a shameful way, but to say, man, staying here is no longer an option for me. I don't even have a choice. This is why free will for me is a sketchy topic, because when you can really get real with yourself, then you don't have another option. Or I should say, you have other options. You don't have another choice. You've got to make that change, because staying there is costing you all of that and then more. And all of that is putting more pain on top of already existing pain. So that's why step 5 is so important. But step 6 is the fun part. And this is where you put yourself in the driver's seat. This is where you rewrite the story. Okay? You're the one with the pen now. You are the author of your story. You are the hero of your own movie. And sometimes you're the villain too. And that's okay. That's part of this process. You're turning yourself from the villain into the hero. So you don't need a rescuer, because you're rescuing yourself. And so to rewrite the story, we must do something different. Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. If we're going to transform this and bring yourself back to you and stop the chain of trauma identification, we must do something different. So this person that is doing the self-sabotaging because they think that a massive pain is the only way to create massive change can stop for a second when things are good. Recognize, I want to change. I want a change in my life. I don't need to create massive pain in order to do that. I'm just going to do it right now. Okay, do something different. This is the hard part, because this is where rubber meets the road. This is where you put your money where your mouth is. This is where you really show your true character and your will, and really how bad you want it. Like, how bad do you want to be free from this? How bad do you want to free yourself from these self-imposed chains? How bad do you want to grow? How bad do you want to heal? How bad do you want to feel better? How bad do you want love? How bad do you want to be happy? How bad do you want peace? How bad do you want to move humanity forward and be a part of the collective good? Because your healing is a part of the collective healing. And maybe we're not there yet to even think about that big of a purpose, but at the end of the day it is. And even if you're just looking for relief from your pain, how bad do you want that? Okay, and this is what step 6 is about. It's getting really clear about how bad do you want it. And you have to want that more than you want to stay stuck in your pain. You have to want that more than you want to use your pain as a way to connect with others. Because doing something different, especially when you've been doing this and operating this way for years and years and years, it takes constant and consistent, intentional focus, awareness, and effort of yourself, your emotional state, how you're showing up with others, even to the point of anticipating things before they happen so that you can visualize yourself responding in a different way. It takes diligence. It takes practice. There's no perfect way to do this. Are you going to mess up? For sure. Are you going to falter back into old patterns? Maybe so. But that doesn't mean that you failed. That simply means that you're trying, and it's okay to fail. It's okay to, I rephrase that. It's okay to make a mistake or fall back into old patterns and recognize it and say, I did it again. Shoot. Okay, here's my action steps to change that. Okay, that's the hard work. And that's the part of the process that ultimately keeps us back in this passive mode, because we know it's going to take work to transform our identity. But where we're going here, so here's where we're going. We have to have something to look forward to, an empowering future, an empowering alternative. Where are we going is we're coming back to who you are. We're going to not reform, we're going to unform the identity crisis that has been based and created in a trauma, and we're going to come back to our form, our true form, our true self with a capital S, which is our soul, which never changes. It is infinity. It goes on and on and on. It is undamageable. It is safe. It is love, and it is pure in its essence. Completely pure. It's just covered by traumas and experiences and conditionings and habits. And we're coming back to the form in which our Creator created us to be, which is perfect. Perfect in any way. And so what we want to do in this process is, yes, do something different. One phrase I like to ask myself whenever I'm in a sticky situation is I just sit with myself and I say, what would love do? In this situation, what would love do? Because at the end of the day, all of us, in our essence, are pure love. And of course, we each have our unique set of gifts and quirks and passions and likes and dislikes. And that's all great. That's part of the personality. But at the soul level, we're all pure love. Pure love and joy and bliss. You know, with a little flavorings here, little flavorings there that make up a beautiful personality, masculine, feminine, maybe this much masculine, maybe this much feminine. But what we're really doing is following the path of love. And when we do that, we stay true to our self, capital S. We stay away from fear and anger responses. And we're going to build this firm foundation now on the unshakable and undeniable and undamageable part of you, which is the whole you, which is yourself. And so this is where we want to put our roots. Now, what this really means is putting our roots in our Creator, first and foremost, because that is the rock of the foundation in which we must build ourself from. If we're firmly rooted and we have a firm foundation in that higher power, which I call God, that higher power, God, in my personal relationship with Jesus, when we build our foundation on that, then there's nothing that can get in the way or take us off of that rock. So when we know who we are, who we really are, then we can work through the traumas, we can understand them, we can come to terms with them, we can get to know them and understand them, but we still know at the end of the day when our head hits the pillow who we really are. And nobody, no thing, no acquisition of anything can take us away from that. It may tempt us for a time. But when we practice building and rooting down, the more roots we can put down into that surface, that foundation of self, of soul, of creator, of God, then the higher chance we have of staying true to that, not abandoning ourselves, and not allowing any trauma to become the basis of our identity. Because none of that which has happened to you defines you. None of what has happened to you is identified with you. It may affect you, but it doesn't become you. You may feel the effects of them, but it's not who you are. There's a lot more to this, but what I really wanted to talk about was this concept of, and the caution of making sure that we're forming our identity and creating our life, based on a more firm foundation rather than what most people do is they don't have any foundation at all. And so this trauma happens, pulls them over here. This trauma happens, pulls them over here, and here, and here, and here. And all of a sudden you're ripping at all seams until one day you're going to burst. And what comes out, I don't think any of us are going to like. It's a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain to be defining you in this way or that way. When you're rooted, you feel those things. But you don't come away from that firm foundation. And so my encouragement is this. Always remember that there is a part of you that is completely undamageable. That's the part of you that our Creator God is begging you to identify with Him. Because you are it. And you have the pen to your own story. No pain defines you. No experience defines you. And you are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. When you can remember and always hold true to who you are at that level as a spiritual being, you hold all the power. And that finger that you're pointing outwards at all the trauma, at all the people, at all the experiences that have happened to you, comes right back here. And you say, I own that. I'm going to use that in order to alchemize myself, to become closer to the highest version of myself. Use it as fuel to the alchemy, not fuel to the pain. I love you all. Trauma, identity, dangerous territory. Hey, if there's a topic you would like me to discuss or rant on and on about, I am always open to hearing what you guys want to hear about. That's what I'm doing here. That's why I make these episodes. So please send them in my inbox. You guys follow me on social media. Send them in my DMs. You can comment on any of this podcast posts. Email me, sarah@sparkflc.com. You know how to reach me. I'm a pretty reachable person. So I would love to hear about what you want to hear about. And as always, guys, be well. Please take care. Do the work. If you have any questions on these, please reach out and listen again if it hit you hard. Please, please, please share this episode if it brought you value. All I want to do is bring more value to people, get it in front of more people who really need some encouragement right now. This is how we alchemize our identity. We step away from the trauma and into and back to ourselves. I love you all. Be well. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Ignite the Spark Within. If this podcast brought you value, or you think it would bring someone else value, please hit that share button. My mission is to reach and help as many people as I possibly can, and you just never know who could use that one good piece of information. And hey, if you have any topics, discussion questions, or ideas for future episodes, you can reach me directly at sarah@sparkflc.com and just write podcast in the subject line. And if you haven't already, please rate the podcast on your favorite podcast channel. This helps bring awareness to the show. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're alerted for all future episodes. Please go ahead and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're interested in pursuing coaching for yourself, you can visit sparkflc.com for more information.